It is the 21st of February, 2019. This is WIKISPEED Standup. I'm just going to hit pause and we'll wait for someone else to show up before we continue the recording.
This
Okay.
is Lauren Salter, Gabriel Island, British Columbia. And the past week, I was following conversations about wikis and continued my reading about Python. And I think that's about it. Maybe removed some blocks. So coming week, I really do kind of as an obligatory thing, want to get us, the blocks I'm eliminating are obligatory things like taxes, personal. And also I see the reporting for the charitable and answering Michael's question about the receipt requirements as kind of things to get out of the way so that we can do some of this other stuff. And so blocks are not too much new anyway. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. I got a few things done this week. Explored Wikifactory a little bit, and this Markdown language, I think it is, but it's MD anyway. The titles and headings seem to be supported quite well. I'm looking for what may not be available, which is a way to collapse headings, so you can just kind of take the table of contents, scan through the headings and see parts that you want to read about, expand those out, and I'm not sure whether they nest or not, but it gives you the ability to kind of have a living history on where the decisions came from. So if you're interested in looking at it, you can, and if you're not, then you don't have to. The way that Wikifactory README appears to work is that on the left side of the pane, you have kind of like a Windows Explorer list of all the headings. You can click on them and it just kind of skips down the right side and shows you that section. But you can't collapse anything like you can in Explorer to see or not see a subgroup of headings, at least not that I can see anyway. I'm not sure why I'm so worried about that, but I seem to be wanting to do that. A little bit of progress on the Polaris electric vehicle. I brought up some more batteries from the lake and an inverter. Got some fuses changed. I'm trying to figure out how much energy you can get out of a cold battery pack, cold being colder than -20 or somewhere around 5 below 0 Fahrenheit. So is it actually going to be good enough for pushing snow and all that kind of stuff when I have trouble getting gas engines to start unless they're actually parked inside my heated garage? What else did I do? A little bit I tried to get to pulling apart the remote control vehicle, and in cleaning out a spot on my bench, I was reminded of other projects that I have neglected for too long. So I kind of got distracted trying to get enough parts put into a CNC project, a little CNC mill, so that I could get the 6 or 7 bags of small parts put together instead of trying to put them somewhere where I wouldn't get them lost and broken and stuff. So hopefully I can clean up some of that. The instructions for the Makesmith CNC are back on YouTube. They were gone for a while, so that helped. And next week I'm looking at identifying some parts for the Arduino, and I guess we'll continue looking at the Pi offerings to see what is the easiest to access. Hopefully comes with everything we want, like the Raspberry Pi version of Debian, I think it's called Raspbian, and then mouse drivers, and what else are we looking for? Micro SD, I think, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. I think that's what we had listed.
Python?
Oh, Python, that's what it was. I think Python's pretty standard, but I'm not positive.
Yep. But they, it might be different flavors and things.
I think Raspbian is actually pretty true to the Debian roots. It's just it has a few drivers in it that make it work with the Pi, I think. Anyway, that's about it for me. We'll give it back to you, Lauren.
Okay, so I'll give myself a 4 for myself, and a 9 for the team, because at least among us, between us, there's a fair amount of interaction going on. And process improvement, I'm gonna pass on that this week. Maybe if I have better ideas of increasing the number of people, then I would have an improvement next week, and that's it for me.
Okay, I guess I forgot to mention it's Michael Olchek in Saskatoon, and I didn't mention my blocks, which I don't have any, or at least none that you can help with, Lauren, which basically is, I think, the way this goes. I'm going to give myself a 10 because I didn't have very high expectations for myself this week. I'm not sure why, but I didn't. I think maybe I'll have to raise the target a little bit because I've been at or near 10 for a while now. For the team, I'm going to go with an 8. In order for me to go any higher than 8, I think we have to have more people on the call, and we had some people participating on the forums, and we kind of seem to have lost that. Although I did notice that the emails that were going back and forth between you and me weren't copied to the team, so I don't know how I expected anybody to interact with us when we didn't even send a copy to the team. So the next response on that, I'm just going to send a copy to the team, and hopefully, if anybody is interested, they will read back through the thread.
So now
it does. Go ahead.
I thought of a process improvement. Then just share the as much as possible per good thread practice post to the team, not to each other. I do that at times because I don't know whether something's ready or whatever. I'm trying to prepare, but I should be following up with a general post once I'm happy with clarifications.
Yeah, I seem to blindly just reply all, and once we've gotten into a private conversation, I don't really notice until like today. I look at it and say, this hasn't gone out to the team. I don't have a problem with looking like an idiot in public, so sending the messages where I say something blatantly wrong or hypothesize or whatever to the team, and having them follow along the logic and realize it's wrong and point it out is great. Anyway, I guess that pretty much does it for stand-up, though. I assume you have some crosstalk?
Well, I was thinking we kind of ripped through that in record time. So maybe my assumption was wrong. I'm still pretty excited about the truck. and I think the rock climber, because a big issue with what we want probably is something like something that's well off the ground and got some kind of I don't know how to describe the suspension, but like this, that can handle, uh, relative to its size, that can handle uh, uh, obstacles, is what we want ultimately.
Yeah, something that has a suspension. I don't. The problem with, or one of the challenges for WIKISPEED having 4 independent wheel modules was that the suspension had to fit in the wheel module, and it was a plus, but it was also a minus,
Right,
because you can't do certain types of suspension because they won't fit.
right,
Especially like double wishbone suspension. I mean, you kind of need 2 wheels to be interacting for that. So there is the suspension that we're using is the style of suspension that's suitable. You can do, I think, leaf springs and shocks, but you don't end up with a solid axle anyway. So I think some of the advantages go away anyway. So if by making a pair of wheels an option, I think we have opened the floor up a little bit to different designs, although we've lost some of the flexibility.
yeah. That was a question I had about the 4 independent, and so that maybe that can be, because I'm thinking 2, starting with 2 is not a bad idea. That
Mhm,
I'm assuming 4 is more complex, has some challenges of its own. And this is a right double dual motor, right? There's a motor in the front
mhm.
and a motor in the back.
Yep.
So
And that I was a little interested in why the front doesn't look like the back.
right,
Like the front has the arms for the linkage on the steering, but you could have easily made the rear look like the front and just kind of leave the steering linkage off. So I
right,
think
right,
they actually wanted the front to kind of look more like an engine, like a regular
right, right.
gas engine. And I think it was a style reason more than a design reason, because it
Interesting.
it doesn't look like it was actually functional requirement.
Right, right,
But so the general idea that I'm trying to get to with the reverse engineering is just to figure out which pins do what. The
right.
radio does full left, full right, and forward and reverse. There is no
Yeah, I
proportional
know.
steering.
Of
There is no
course, I
proportional
know.
throttle.
Yeah, right, right.
So I don't see any point in getting the signals directly into the micro and intercepting them there. If we're going to do proportional steering, we kind of have to do our own
Yeah,
proportional, the variable speed on the motor and that kind of stuff. There
yeah,
doesn't seem to be any feedback on it, so we'll have to come up with some sort of a way to get feedback hooked up to the
right,
steering linkage.
right.
And I mean, that'll come with its own interesting stuff. But
Yeah,
the other thing is the wheels don't lend themselves to encoders. But again, to get something running, I think we're okay with that. Are you okay with eBay pulse width modulated devices, like big dimmer switches for DC, right?
uh, yes. I don't know how to answer that because I don't understand exactly what it is, but
Well, the way that you do the variable speed is you basically turn it on and off quickly. So
ah,
at 1,000 or 5,000 times a second, and then you vary how long it's on versus how long it's off, and that gives you kind of a different average voltage, and that changes how fast it goes. So the guys on eBay are doing these controllers that are generically for drills or generically for
right, right.
like small pieces of equipment.
Cool.
The guys that are doing the hydrogen vapor into their cars, it's called HHO. There's lots of controllers that are quite inexpensive that will run 5 or 10 amps. And the problem is that they only have a volume control for speed, so we have to interface the Arduino to that. But it doesn't look like it's that big of a challenge.
Cool.
So
So like so in fact the speed is it's either on or off is the forward or reverse. That it has a trigger, but I noticed the trigger, it doesn't really move travel.
Yeah, it's on off. It's not a proportional signal.
Yeah.
So we can use the radio for steering it around, but when we put the Arduino in between, we're going to want to do proportional steering and proportional speed, because if you're carrying anything and you go as fast as you can immediately, you're either going to lose it or you're going to tip.
Right.
So.
Yeah, right. You don't want to jerk forward.
Now, what David had suggested was building that onto the Arduino, the speed controller, but with the pricing that they've got on AliExpress and on eBay, you can basically get it like a proofed board that does what you want it to do for slightly less than I can buy the parts when I buy them one or two at a time, which is insane.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
It's and
that's made to kind of intervene in an on-off thing. It's made to work with an on-off kind of a situation.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and the ones that I'm looking at, I'm actually looking at ones that will do up to 60 volts instead of just 12 or 6 or whatever. And the reasoning there is that we can use them for not just the remote control truck, but when we go to the next size up.
Yeah, scale
we should probably be able to use the same ones, so we won't have to have to change things out. I've blown up enough power electronics to know that it doesn't take a very big error to make it so that you have to buy some more parts. so and of course we want to do the fun stuff. We want to get the software going and stuff. We don't want to agonize over the power stage. So.
Right. So a question then. So the steering, though, to proportionalize the steering, that's a more challenging thing than the speed.
It is, only because we don't have feedback. If we had feedback, you can run the motor at a fixed speed until you get to the position you're looking for.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I took a course in robots in 2000 where I made a little balancing robot. And one of the things they were doing was modifying a servo so that it would turn a wheel, because by default, servos only go a certain distance.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's actually what I was expecting. So the servo, you send it 1.5 millisecond pulse, and it's center, and then you hard left is a 1 millisecond pulse, and then hard right is a 2 millisecond pulse. And it just swings back and forth that way. But that's not how this one works. It's a motor and a clutch that seems to slip as soon as it hits the stop, which I don't really understand how it works, and I don't want to break it, so I don't want to take it apart to find out how it works. Lots of the stuff I take apart doesn't go back together again. So.
Yeah, kind of my thinking is that if we're going to rip something out and replace it with ours, it's likely to be the steering first, whereas we can work with the forward and backward, the forward and reverse as they are.
Like we can put the pulse width modulation on the steering as well, and we can, go hard when we're far away from where we want to be, and then slow down as we get to where we want to be with the steering, and that's fine. But we don't have to do that right away. And if as long as you're moving or not moving, and you've got a pretty good shot at coasting into position close enough.
Right.
If you, well, it takes a little bit of playing around, but I think we need the variable speed on the forward reverse much more than we need the variable speed on the steering.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, that's hopefully I'm going to get there this weekend.
It's better than the first remote car I got my kids, which was in order to turn you had to back up.
Oh yes, I remember that. The single button back up and turn right.
That's right.
Yep. Now I do have a couple of other remote control things that I have taken apart. One's infrared, and the receiver is a little goofy. It's supposed to be a helicopter, but
Right.
as far as I can tell, the only way you can get it to fly is actually to hold it above your head and point the remote up at it. So it wasn't all that useful as a toy, but as a way to turn it on remotely and stuff like that, it might work okay. Anyway, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
All of this stuff runs on different voltages, so we're going to have a bit of mayhem in terms of battery packs and voltage regulators and stuff.
Do you know? Are you aware of pricing on the other thing that the balancing robot worked with a kind of angled downwards infrared like signaler receiver?
Mm-hmm.
And so it basically kept on the upright by just measuring the distance, a single distance angled downwards. So it,
okay.
yeah, and it used some PID, I think, in the that's what he was talking about in the software.
Okay.
So my question is, are those cheap now, the infrared things? Because for the Follow Me, I looked at a few Follow Me videos.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that had a turret with the infrared on it that scans around, so it follows, and then if the target disappears, the turret turns around till it finds it again.
Okay. Is that what you're looking for, or would you rather the vehicle turn?
That's much more common, the vehicle turn.
Okay.
But I was thinking if you had two infrared, if you had two of them, if they were cheap, then it could kind of attempt to keep the target in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be so I don't know if that's necessary. You know, I watched a few videos of them. Yeah. So I don't know if that's like overkill and really unnecessary or not.
If I remember correctly, there is a guy that used a Wii controller,
right,
to make kind of a video whiteboard. He just had a little infrared LED that he could kind of put in a marker, and the camera picked it up really well. I'm thinking that we could probably do something like that on a belt, for example. So if it's pointing behind you or in front of you or whatever way you're tracking to Follow Me, that could just be a beacon. And if it keeps the beacon centered between the two sensors, it's going in the right direction.
Okay, so then I have another.
It might run into a few things if you take corners too quick, but
yeah, and that's why the so then I kind of have a question. It seems what I discovered from the Segway 9bot video, where the guy was that when it was set at a particular distance from him, it was not that hard for a person to push, just kind of like you're pushing a wagon with the handle. You have to kind of angle it so that it goes the direction you want as it kind of veers off.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's an interesting kind of thing. So if you just set a distance,
Mm-hmm.
then I follow you or I'm pushing you is not it appears that isn't that hard to make happen.
Mm-hmm.
So because they all have a thing where the follow me stops. When you stop, it stops because you're um, so and so many feet from it, say
Mm-hmm.
4 feet from it.
So
And
we'd
so
need a sonar of some sort, or some way of some way of getting a number that's in like the 5 to 10 foot range kind of thing.
well IR the IR send receive does it calculates the distance. That was the idea on the balancing robot. It by the time it takes to receive the signal back.
Oh, okay. Well, it's got to do some fancy modulation to make sure it's not sunshine at the end and stuff like that.
Sorry?
Or it's got to look at the light that's coming back, the infrared,
Right.
and say,
Right.
oh, this isn't the sun. This isn't a compact fluorescent light bulb.
The sun is apparently a problem. Certain kinds of lights are a problem for IR.
So with IR, you normally have to modulate it. So you turn it on and off in a specific pattern, kind of like a strobe light with a specific pattern. So if you get back that pattern, then you know that's your signal.
Right.
And you can use, if the repeating signal takes a specific amount of time, you can tell how long it took to get back. That takes a little bit more processing power, but that shouldn't be a problem.
And then
The
you're talking
Arduino
about
is going to be kind of bored.
the beacon is a different thing. Like what I'm thinking of was the send and receive, and so that there are videos online of it when it finds an object like a person near it, and it starts following them. But it's undistinguishing. It's indiscriminate, like a certain kind, like a puppy or something like that. It'll follow whatever is in front of it.
Right. If you've got a beacon, then you know that it's following the right thing, right?
Yeah, right.
And you could probably receive the same signals where the infrared will react to the signal from the beacon as well as the signal from the distance measurement, although I'm trying to think.
So
There's probably some complication there.
You could disable the light on the sender receiver if you wanted to just use it with a beacon, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Or a beacon with an identical kind of.
But you would have to do, like, because you're wanting to do distance as well, because it's, you don't want it to stop, not run into you. You'd have to have the infrared doing at least once in a while, like say a couple times a second would have to do distance.
Yeah, and so there's that, but then what I believe the Segway does is Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question, so is it built into Bluetooth to calculate how far it is? Or can you get Bluetooth to calculate how far away the source is?
Bluetooth low energy is a packet.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you have a way of sending the packet and having the phone, as soon as it receives it, send it back, you don't really have a way of telling how far away it is.
Now, he was actually they mentioned Bluetooth, but he was actually using a little remote, a phone-sized little dedicated remote on the Segway. He wasn't using a phone as far as I recall.
Okay, so if he was using a remote and that's what it did, when the robot sent it a signal and it just automatically sent it back, you could do time of flight from that and figure out how far away it was.
Yeah.
But that won't give you direction; it'll just give you distance, right?
Yeah. And so, like if you watch that video, he is weaving back and forth. Not a whole lot, but he's kind of mastered the ability to just keep it so far ahead of him, and where he's wanting it to go. As I say, like backing up with a trailer or pushing a wagon with the what do you call it, articulated handle.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that one worked. He did a lot of interesting stuff in those videos, and some of it I thought was useful. Some of it I thought was more showy than perhaps useful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But
given that he was walking through a crowded mall, it seemed like he felt it was safer to have it in front of him, so that it didn't kind of someone didn't step into the way. And
yeah, and I don't know, like, I mean, walking beside me, I think might have made me feel just a little bit better, so I could see in front of it and behind it. Because when it was walking in front of him, he could see it, but he didn't actually know what was exactly in front of it, if I remember.
yeah, right. And so you're thinking of something like a heel command.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Well, in that way, as long as you're looking where you're going, you're not going to let it run into something that's
Yeah. So
too tough for it to climb, right?
yeah, in that case, it's kind of off to the side. The signal is off to the side,
Yeah.
And then it needs to know which direction you're going.
So if do we need feedback on the steering if we're following a beacon? Probably not right away,
Yeah, I don't
right?
think so. I don't think so either. Yeah.
But we will kind of need binocular, like 2 different infrared sensors,
Yeah.
so that we can tell, oh, I have to turn left or I have to turn right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like almost like two invisible bars going over to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Well, have to think about that.
Yeah.
I suspect that this is going to move much slower than either of us wants it to, but I guess we'll see where it goes.
About our trucks.
The project itself, in terms of
Oh.
getting the trucks to do what we want them to do.
I thought the truck was pretty speedy.
Well, yeah, it's when you're following it around and you're steering it, it's fast enough, actually.
Yeah.
And that we can actually get it to go faster if we put more voltage to the motors. The fact that the motors, the fact that the motors are going as fast as they can all the time, is part of the problem, because they heat up pretty good when you're going fast, going slow, going fast, going slow. If you're just moving at a moderate pace all the time, I think they wouldn't heat up as bad.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
And they have teeny little wires going to them. I can't see them taking very much current.
More like fuses.
Oh, I guess bigger than fuses, but they're on the order of the size of network cable.
Right.
They're not very large.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. Interesting and fun.
So I guess we're about done. I think we're going to be running out of time here pretty quick. Did you get a notice yet?
No.
I haven't
but
seen one yet.
I'm ready to stop.
Yeah, I think I see the notice. Okay, it gave me a 10-minute warning, but I'm not sure how long ago that was.
Okay. All right.
So
okay. Well,
we'll probably be emailing back and forth, but we'll talk to you next week.
okay. I know.
All right.